doing too many things at once, but that's as usual.
Wow.
So what's going on? Is
Okay.
it just us, or are you expecting someone else?
Well, I would like another person, but as it turns out, this is the story of my Dakar life. Is I'm trying to get on other people's agendas, with them committing and then bailing out. The gentleman that I wanted to introduce you to had been really instrumental in a
Hmm.
lot of the things that Lyle had uh, kind of given me, an opportunity to integrate a term that is very powerful. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, a systems integrator. Have you ever heard that term?
Hmm. Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really, yeah, it's a real term, but it's a real industry, and it's a real person who can do systems integration, but specifically for telecommunications. This gentleman was one of the few people who introduced me to what was capable of happening that has now become default and moving more information without having to move your body, and how that would apply to all forms of transmission of information, whether it be telephony, broadcast, energy, and all of these things. His name is Terrence Coles. He couldn't make the call, but he is probably littered in everything that I'm doing in terms of a proof of principle that if you took on the assignment of helping me raise funding, but not just money, but raising the level or raising the value proposition of what we offer as consultants for people who are in trouble, especially people who don't know that they're in trouble because their business models are failing.
Hmm.
Um, and especially people who are failing in the educational arena, because I think most people in the educational arena realize that they're brands and they're competing for the mind share and market shares of not just the students and the parents, but just everything. So he has kind of been the systems integrator of bringing solutions to me to help me with school districts like Compton Unified School District. That's where we started almost damn near 9 years ago. So we
Okay.
decided that we're going to take on the toughest case we could find, and we were going to go to the toughest school district who was in receivership and had no money, but had the biggest need to bring some element of consulting and strategy on how to give their students more access to things. We chose Compton Unified School District. So Terrence and I, we started doing live streaming of activities that would allow us to put a spotlight on Compton as a place where people could invest. And interestingly enough, the top music, film, TV power broker in the world decided to do the same thing about the time we arrived there. It's an organization called William Morris Endeavor. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, William Morris Endeavor is probably one of the largest talent agencies in the world. At the time, they represented Denzel, still do, but there was a gentleman by the name of Charles King, who now branched off from William Morris. He's the top black agent, and now has his own production company and studio, which is now called Macro. And so I learned a lot from my experience with Compton, talking with Charles King almost 9 years ago about his vision, which has now come to fruition. I say all that to say is that the proof of principle, I've forgotten more things than I can ever put on paper about people who are power brokers that
Okay.
I can now get back to, because we have proof of principle, but we also have evidence that when I met these people, we were talking about very futuristic, very visionary things that are the things that I think a lot of these decision makers that I'm now getting ready to meet by virtue of people asking me, not soliciting, asking me to help them. So Charles King from Macro, Terrence Cole's the person who's not on the call, and they are all now people who I can bring to a client. So as a consultant that I'm trying to be, instead of being the proof of principle nonprofit guy that no one wants to speak to until it's too late, I'm now trying to build myself as a consultant who can bring futuristic things, because 9 years ago, that was then. Now we have a whole nother set of problems that still need that more futuristic understanding of where everybody's going to have to move to, because now there's even less of a margin for error, especially when you talk about education. Because what we were really focused on back then with Compton is not how to reform education, but we needed to reform education because it failed Compton. And still no better. They're doing as well as they can. They're bringing in magnet school programming and, you know, accelerated education so that students can get at the high school level, they can get an AA degree by the time they finish. But those are just throwing rocks at a tank. And the same problem exists for LAUSD that Compton has, except for, you know, again, branding. LAUSD is a much better brand than Compton, right? But their students are still feeling, especially the Black and brown ones, that prior to COVID were still drowning, but now they're drowning without any life raft or any hope of any life raft ever coming, unless somebody comes and says, hey man, you guys have got to do a much better job of systems integration, of taking the old legacy way of doing business and bringing in some new innovative ways to give these students the things that are going to really, again, put generations of students so far behind, it's not even funny. And literally most of it is the psychology of how do you teach these new learners? How do you teach them with old technology, old textbooks, and old really pedagogy? You can't if you want better results. So I have a client now who is, they claim, the #1 employer of people in the state of California who come from four-year universities, because they're touting that people are getting a living wage and kind of in the white collar area of the economic system. There are more people coming out of their system than any place else in the state of California. So that's the California State University system, the 23 campuses. This is what they're touting as data. And their data is what I'm hoping will help you, help me say that we can make these claims until somebody prove otherwise, that we have an educational institution that's got almost 500,000 students annually that that currently employ more people out of their system because they collect the data, the California State University system. They don't have a big engineering department, by the way, for your, you know, edification, but they do have more emphasis on the new kind of engineering, which is the kind of engineering that doesn't take a lot of the old pedagogy of engineering. It's really giving students more access to the kind of learning so that they can understand where things are going for engineers. But I digress. The department that wants to hire me is the digital media department of the California State University. That's TV, film, and where TV, film intersects with technology.
This is at the system-wide level? Kevin, this is at the system-wide level?
This is at the Chancellor's office in Sacramento for all 23 campuses.
No, I thought the Chancellor's office is in Long Beach.
Well, the Chancellor's office is in Long Beach, but this is the brain trust of everything that has to happen in terms of all their funding comes from Sacramento.
Okay.
And the person who is in charge of the digital media consortium of the 23 campuses in San Francisco. So Chancellor's office, you're right, is in Long Beach. But when it comes to trying to get all the things that are policy and law, they're still happening in Sacramento. So when their budget gets cut, that's where the lobbying goes, and all the people have to be And that's kind of where this particular person and this power of the 23 for digital media, they feed directly to the person who's lobbying to not get, you know, more money cut. And literally they're planning on going back to school in the spring, or excuse me, the fall.
In the fall, yeah.
But they're and I've recorded all the conversations with them. They're choking more than any other system. Their output is great, but because their output is great, there's a corresponding deficit in all of their budgets for all the 23 campuses, where they've had to cut so much stuff, where they have to be more efficient. So the efficacy of anything that happens now has to show more yield without less money. And so they believe that there needs to be some reform, because the students are not community college students paying community college tuition. They're paying, you know, full retail price for an education. And for the last 3 semesters, they're not getting anything. Right. They're not getting return on their investment. And so the people that I'm talking to says that the message that they would like to take to the instructors, the faculty, and the people who decide the budget is that we got to do better. And so having all that said, is that I have a chance on April 28th to address their rank and file decision makers on topics that are going to be more B2B. Me as a business consultant talking to their business decision makers is what we have on April 20th, which is a conference. It's an annual summit where all of these teachers, faculty, and people come together, because now it's virtual. There's no excuse for not, you know, for the whole 23 campus network to not make it. Mm-hmm. So why did they select me? I have some ideas, but I've recorded all the conversations we've had, and Terrence has been on the conversations. By the way, Terrence is a graduate of Cal State Fullerton. He's currently the head of something called, you ever heard of Redbox?
I think so. The movie thing?
Redbox?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So Redbox, so kind of a little backstory, and I was hopefully Terrence was going to tell the story, but Terrence and I put together a contract or a statement of work that became a contract with one of the community colleges back in 2018 to do a 16-week non-credit course that was really an immersive media career exploration class, no credits, but to take a group of students that we didn't pick, they gave us, to expose them to the digital media career pathways that were futuristic. And when I say futuristic, things that the current digital media dean and all the other people didn't support because they didn't understand it. It's like, you know, here, takes 30 students, we'll pay you. And let's see, at the end of the contract, will you do a culminating event that shows what these kids learned? And I did this class. The experience was great for me, but we didn't get another contract, again, because we were too ahead of the time. And okay. Donovan Green from AT&T, people from Apple, people from the mayor's office, people from the county, they were all there to see this thing. So our proof of principle was to make sure that we had a culminating event that showed everybody what could we do with a group of students that we didn't pick, and have them pitch what they learned and applied to an audience full of people trying to figure out, well, wow, this is 2018. What is immersive media? Which the term is really all media, and social media is part of it. So social media is really media. It's not just social media anymore, because the kind of media that we're talking about, whether it be for promotion or for business, all incorporate social media, all immersive media. So it's all one thing. And you have a hard time still having people understand that. So our proof of principle for that was that we were too far ahead of the time. And because people don't have any budgets for things that are unknown. We basically got most of our support from the corporations and not the schools. So they don't put any skin in the game because, well, we don't have a budget for unknown. We only have a budget for what we know. And so this woman's name is Dina. She's a dean at San Francisco State, but she's the executive director of this alliance of these 23 campuses. She says, now it's time for us to take this audience that we have and let you talk to them about the unknown. And the unknown really for them is, how do we get more of our four-year university candidates and our alumni to rally around dealing with the unknown? I mean, it's really, workforce, it's placement into those career pathways in which these people and the alumni think that there should be more matchmaking, but it's not. They're still doing better than USC, UCLA, and some of the arts colleges in terms of yield, total yield, but it still doesn't have the brand that a USC, UCLA, or the art school in Pasadena. So I believe that I can get her to do more than the one-off event from April 28th. And that's what Terrence is interested in, is how do we create a sustainable consulting agreement with them as the first potential client to buy in. Now, obviously, I think that they would help to level the value of any consultancy entity that I put together, because obviously it's credibility. So Valerie doesn't know who I am. And of course, again, I haven't done a good job of promoting who I am. But the fact is, if I get a contract and I get an agreement where I do revenue share with the California State Universities, who are hemorrhaging money, because they're bringing me in not to help to do brand development. I'm not an advertising agency. I'm here to try to help them understand how to take their procurement dollars and get better at turning around a catastrophe. So if the state of California,
you have a contract with them? You have a written agreement with them?
Yes. So no, this is what we have. Friday, is that I asked them, instead of giving me the deck and an agreement. So literally there's a deck for this event where I'm going to get 75% of every dollar I raise, which is generous. The real value of what we're doing is something they should be paying for, but they don't have the money to pay me because it's still, again, April 28th, less than, almost a month and a week away. They want me to produce a panel. This panel that I'm going to produce for them will almost be a keynote panel inside of their summit, speaking to these people, where they've offered me 75% of every dollar I can raise, which I can raise some money. I can get sponsorship. Okay. I already have some people who want to sponsor stuff. But in a perfect world, I would have come to them and say, hey, you guys pay me even $5 and give me a success fee if everything, is beyond expectations and just delivering a nice panel. But I know they don't have the money. And all this stuff is stuff that's happened in the last 24 to 48 hours with me, because this past Friday is when we had a conversation with them. Terrence said, hey, well, the value for what we're doing in producing this panel should be about 20 grand. And in a perfect world, they would pay me 20 grand. In addition, I can still get rev share from the sponsorship. But that's what it is that I got to start asking for. Because if you don't start asking for, as a consultant, you don't get retained, you don't have anything. I'm not going to get paid on the back end for producing a speaker bureau, workshops, and more importantly, a design for how to bring better pedagogy and better procurement strategies. I'm not going to do all that stuff on the back end. I think I have a potential client for those longer term services than just doing a one-off panel. Now, the thing that's interesting about this panel is that I have a high profile organization who's going to be the feature of the panel. It's Kevin Hart.
Okay.
So I'm bringing back the band of all these people that I've whispered to you that
So
existed. You've never
Kevin
seen
Hart
that,
is speaking
know.
on the panel, or someone from his production
No,
company?
Kevin Hart's partner. Kevin Hart's partner, the CEO of the company that Kevin Hart owns, and his partner in that company. He's a partner and a CEO. His name is Jeff Clanagan. He's speaking. Now, this has been very fortuitous for me, so I couldn't have designed all this stuff up if I even tried, but I've revived and restored some part of my relationship with Kevin Hart that I want to be more strategic about now, because I know why it fell apart the first time. So I've got the Heartbeat Studio thing, which Kevin Hart and his partner were connected to because they gave the green light for. They never gave me a job title or never gave a budget to it so that they could hire me. But I was a partner, I thought, in helping to develop that concept of a training program that was apprenticeship, that all the training and stuff would go to Kevin Hart hiring a certain number of the people trained. So that was the idea. And the idea was great, except for the skills that the people would be learning at the physical scale are not needed right now, because the people that are out of work right now in Hollywood who would be doing the training aren't going to train people to take their jobs at a lower rate of pay, or
right.
People will be doing it for free. So the physical production is out, huh? Yeah, so the whole physical training thing is out. So now I'm flipping it to what skills could Kevin Hart put his brand on, that where we can license Kevin Hart's name to say, hey, what if we taught these people, since we now have an audience at Santa Monica College and at all the 23 universities in the California State University, what could we now flip and say, what services could we provide so that these people could understand that as a consultant, we're bringing an influencer and through Infinity create things that are more tangible, like, again, just the stuff that people would listen to some career counselor talk about: resume writing, networking, presentation skills, soft skills, this, soft skills, that. Well, nobody's going to listen to anybody who doesn't have the muscle and the influence to get people a job. So what Kevin Hart had was, hey, I will give these people who come from my program, I'll give them a letter of recommendation with my name on the letterhead, saying that I'm a graduate from the Kevin Hart Academy or the Kevin Hart this. Well, that means a lot in Hollywood, because you can't get your phone call returned until you get your phone call returned. Kevin Hart, when I was doing the Kevin Hart stuff with Jessica Koo, Kim, and all these other freaking people in the community college system, I could get my phone calls returned. They showed up to every event, and AT&T threw a $150,000 check that I never got. All this because of Kevin Hart. So I now have to leverage Kevin Hart, the California State University Entertainment Alliance event that I'm doing on the 28th, and the potential of doing a lot more. I got to leverage this stuff now. It's not a proof of principle, it's a proof of now. Shit. I want to now say that if I went to the Vermont Economic Development Corporation and says, hey, I have a chance to get you guys exposure to the power and the brand of Kevin Hart and all the things that I do know that are worthy of consideration, because again, his affiliation, his signing his letter name on something will get a lot more people access.
I'm not sure. And that's why I'm listening to you and maybe I'm a little bit jaded when I'm thinking of two things. Remember Trump University? I don't want it to go down that path, because I'm like, what's the value of having a letter signed by Kevin Hart? Unless you're telling me.
Well, okay, right, you're right. So let me back up. It really wasn't a letter, it's a certification. Because in the game for the community colleges, not the California State Universities, they don't play in certifications. They play in a BA or BS.
Right.
That's it, to get in the workforce. But the community colleges, they're into certifications and digital badging.
again, so we have this certification, this digital badge that I participated in a Kevin Hart program. But what I need to know on the back end is, what does that mean to employers? Is Kevin already within the Hart organization? Are there a list of entities that have validated the training that's going into this program that says, you know what, if someone passes that, I'm willing to hire them. I'm willing to at least give them a shot because I know they have this. That's the part that I need to understand.
So, right. Here's the commitment. Here's the commitment to Kevin Hart's training program. And I mean, again, it's all in writing, but is that if you go through the training program, if nobody hires you or gives you an internship, Kevin Hart will, through all of the productions that go through his studio. He purchased the studio, the physical asset, so that he can produce at a cheaper cost per output of the program. He could amortize the cost of it through him owning his own production facility. So instead of going to Burbank or Glendale or wherever, he could actually take all this stuff he invested in his own infrastructure to reduce the cost and ownership, and then obviously hire his own people instead of the sound and the lighting and the engineering and the janitorial. All that stuff would now be stuff that he can start employing his own group of people. And those entry-level possessions inside of his physical assets were the ones that he would be giving our community college students. So they could sit at a desk, answering the phone,
but they still be part of whatever union.
Anything.
But would they still be part of whatever union that's out there in Hollywood?
Oh, absolutely. That was the huge part of the certification program, because it was the on-ramp for getting into the unions and guilds necessary in order to do the work at a higher level. Because all of the work that he did in the studio was union and guild work, because he's too big and has too much exposure and liability to not do union and guild work.
Okay. I can see something like that making sense. And if you're successful, Kevin, I would suggest maybe even a conversation with Tyler Perry. The challenge is Tyler's on the other coast, but I suspect he may have a similar need and or similar commitment / mission, given the fact that he built his own damn studio.
Right. Well, I think that was Kevin Hart, and I think in the articles leading up to him buying the buildings and doing all the construction, I think they alluded to the fact he wanted to be the Tyler Perry of the West Coast, but a Tyler Perry in the epicenter of content creation in the world, which is Hollywood.
Then I could see that.
To hire more people.
Yeah.
But hiring people who got the certification is the safety net, in saying, hey, let us use your infrastructure, let us use your certification, let us use your name to at least guarantee that our students got the exposure and training at the level that shows that they're looking over the shoulder, which is really job shadowing, which is the most important component of the community colleges, because no one's going to let you onto their set, look over your shoulder, and see things happening in real time, on schedule, rather, on budget. Nobody, because there's liability for insurance and all kinds of things that really cost a production time and energy to train somebody and let them on the set. So that's why nothing like this ever really happens. You get one or two or three or four people who don't look like us that get on a set. And they may be janitors, they may be electricians, they may be engineers, they may be all kinds of people who, again, ducks select ducks. And if they don't have people in those guilds or unions or in those power situations, they're never going to let anybody that doesn't look like them in one of these positions in that stack of jobs or careers that help to create content. And so all I'm saying is that there's a million jobs that I know that happen inside of media, entertainment, and the creative tech that our students don't even get exposure to, let alone get any real on-ramp to try to figure out what the skills are needed for those. And Kevin Hart was the best chance I had for trying to learn what we could learn about what we don't know.
So,
and
Kevin, you're doing this
what
as
I
what?
think the community colleges were.
You're doing this.
I'm doing this now as a consultant. I'm not doing it.
Thank you.
I'm not,
so this
I did
is
it then as a nonprofit
yeah.
organization to try to get contracting dollars. It's business now. I'm not doing anything that I can still flip when I have to be a nonprofit or a
no, you have
community
you have
agent.
a nonprofit arm when you need it.
Because a lot of
and you just leverage that.
I need to flip and say, hey, you know,
mm-hmm.
So the goal right now is I have to be everything to everybody, but just pivot when somebody says, well, you know, here's what we got. Can you qualify on paper? Yeah, I can. I can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
My focus and my real reason for talking to you is like, I looked at the Vermont Economic Development Corporation as just one archetype of an organization who's doing a great job of how that they're going to help level the playing field for Black businesses or for operators who want to, you know, get their fair market value. Well, as we know, the growth industries are the growth industries, and working in media, entertainment, and creative tech are growth industries. After the pandemic, I think they're going to come back, roaring back, and our people still won't get a bite of the apple.
So do you have an agreement with Kevin Hart?
I don't want them to look at jobs.
Do you have an agreement with the studios?
Well, okay, here's what I have. Here's what I have with Kevin Hart right now. And I don't want to have an agreement, the same kind of agreement that I had before, which is that, you know, I'm part of a deck. I want to make sure that the licensing agreement that I want to get from Kevin Hart is something that will allow me to create, and I call it challenge-based learning, but modules of curriculum that will allow me to leverage Kevin Hart's speakers, which probably come from Kevin Hart's organization, his company called Laugh Out Loud. And the very first peg of that series of speakers, of employees for Laugh Out Loud, are going to happen April 28th, with the CEO of the company coming on to talk about how do you get a job at Laugh Out Loud, Kevin Hart. What are the prescriptive things that he can share with our students about the skills and all the things that you can't do and you shouldn't do in order to be employable at the lowest level? He's going to give that conversation a chance to grow into something that I think could be episodic instead of just breaking down, because he's going to talk about the business of the industry, licensing, distribution, publication, ownership. That's a big, big conversation that will go to an audience we're going to have on the 20th of April, which is, again, is business to business. But he has at least 20 people I can think of who can talk about lighting, makeup and hair, production, marketing, promotion, script writing.
But when you talk about
all
business
these
to business,
different things can be episodic.
But is the target audience the business community or the student population?
No, the target audience is the business folks inside of the educational arena. It's not the students. Not for this first episode.
No. But see, I would argue that
so
it's not a business to business. It's you guys are pitching to academia a new program or a new course line that would be offered. So is the goal for academia to teach the classes or to bring in experts to help teach these classes that will lead to a certification that will then lead to you being able to look for a job in the industry, or worst case scenario, you go put in for a job with Laugh Out Loud Productions?
Right. So for the 28th of April, the scope of work that I've yet to get, this is Friday we taught, scope of work will tell us what it is we have to do to deliver for the relationship to grow and for me to, obviously deliver and be compliant to the statement of work.
But this is from the perspective of the university. This is where the university is your client.
But here's what I want to do to further my penetration into the classroom, because that's the uniqueness of what it is I have with the community colleges. I can get into classrooms. At the California State University level, I'm not there yet. At the community college level, which is the feeder system for the four-year university, California State University system, they've entrusted me to do all of the challenge-based learning that some of the corporations say that they'd like to see these students produce the content and learn in real time how this stuff is made. That's what I'm going to try and appeal to some of these corporations who like that idea of these students working on my delivery for my client, the California State University level. So it sounds a little disjointed, but this is really what I think I'm trying to get everybody to understand. Everything I do as a consultant, the planning, the execution, and the aftercare, I'm going to teach these students how to look over my shoulder and figure out
how long is this, like, how long is the course
I've done to successfully get to the next contract.
How long is the course? How long? So let's say what I'm trying to.
Okay, let me say, the course is really working on project to project. So I might have multiple projects.
Is it a semester or is it a year?
It's a semester, because the students that I'm working with right now at the Santa Monica College, I've selected 4 students. So I've reduced my universe down to 4 students. It's working for the spring semester, and it ends May 20th. And it started February 16th.
After that, then they should be qualified to go put in for a position somewhere.
Right. Well, my goal for the students that I'm working with at the community college level is to get them placed.
And what I'm trying to figure out is how you put it together. Because what's stopping me?
Go
ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, so the project-based learning is really the component that I think you're looking for outcomes, is that I have to give these people an opportunity to help me plan, produce, and execute these events for my clients. So they're literally become part of this thing that I'm calling 35 miles to Eden, because they're going to really create the actual execution of the event. What the safety net for my nonprofit or for my production company is that if they mess up, I'm going to have to make sure that it gets done. So California State University says, hey, I want you to produce a panel. All the marketing, the pre-production, all the stuff leading up to April 28th, these people will get a chance to create those elements that are going to be part of the deliverables. And I have to produce, as a producer, I have to manage all of these expectations, but I'm going to give these students a chance to be part of the real-time delivery. That is one project, one execution, and it comes out as something that is critical for anybody that works in the creative tech industry. It's called the IMBD credit. You can't buy one. It's the most priceless thing that will help you get into a union, a guild, or above the line production. It's called IMBD. It's the Internet Movie Database, and you can't buy one. So certifications are great. Letters from Kevin Hart are great, but IMBD credit is it. So these people, with my April 28th event, I will register, which I haven't done yet, to produce this as a television event. My one panel, I'm only going to do one panel. I don't care if they offered me the whole thing or paid me. I'm only going to concentrate on one panel featuring Kevin Hart's partner and CEO of Laugh Out Loud. The production of that panel will include these 4 students working on various elements. And most of it will be in pre-production, that I get a chance to make sure that they deliver on time the things that I'm going to submit to my client, the California State University. This is the thing that I believe will become the working model for every client that I have. I will have a group of students helping me with all of the deliverables.
You're going to pursue
and
clients.
They will get that IMBD credit at the least.
Okay, but are you going to pursue clients other than the university so that you have a steady flow of work, so that if you were to grab students who are in this program, and I'm trying to put it together in my mind. So let's say you have a partnership with the Cal State system, and that you're able to teach a non-credit course, which is really a work experience course. The goal is to get them the laugh out loud training certificate and possibly even also an IMDb thing. But in order to do that, you still need your private sector consulting, because you've got to retain clients to be able to go out and have someone to do the work for.
Absolutely. That is really one of the more critical things I want to train somebody for, is really how to be my assistant or how to be my business development. Retention is one thing, but how do we find clients?
Right.
And so I have many people who are clients, they just don't know they are, because they've been doing work with me, volunteering and doing, whatever kind of mentorship things that they've been doing. I'm going to convert everybody into a client that I can, because I want to produce content, fee for service for them, or if nothing else, I want to give them a chance to showcase the efficacy of my program will be, hey, I'll produce some content for you. And even when and where I can, it could be USC, it could be UCLA. They all have conferences, they all have events. I take
it back, Kevin. You can do this two ways. One, for the university level or whatever, then part of your agreement with them is we'll also do so many programs per year based on which you identify the needs. You identify the content, you'll produce that, which is good for them. And then on the side, you can still do your other things. And you can, if the students wanted to work for you outside of the classroom, potentially that's where they can get paid. But they're gonna work on the university's dime.
There you go. And that's more important than anything. When people put skin in the game, they will be putting it in at a level that they haven't really been thinking about. That I've often said, this is the altruistic way for people to really mean what they say. These universities, these community colleges, with all their budgets, they never hire students, and they can't. Students either get credits or they get paid. Well, they can pay me, and I can pay the students.
Right.
And all the work that they do, they always outsource to some company, whether they be cronies or somebody else. These are the things that I know I can do. And I'm going to leverage every time they ask me to bring a speaker or a workshop. Okay, yeah. Well, let me do the sourcing of all the elements to produce this thing that you're asking me to do. And even if you don't pay me, I want people to be working on delivering these things. And I'm going to try to negotiate my fair market value for it. And I'm going to promote the things I've done in the past and try to make sure that when you're hiring the company, yeah, you're hiring me. Because I'm very clear about what you've said, is that there's no internships without being paid. Because you're not really learning anything if you're not getting a W-2 to W-9.
Right.
You're not learning anything. And so all of the students I've worked with in the past, and that's why I've done this real cathartic thing for me, was I put something together last night called Where Are They Now? So I showed 2016 is when I executed my very best event that Terrence Coles helped me do. It was a multi-camera virtual conference where we had the opportunity to do something physical, but we used the president of the USC Black Alumni Association, Michelle Turner's. We used her office. We invited the person who is now the head of the 19 Los Angeles community colleges budget for Center for the Competitive Workforce, Dean Davis, Adrian Davis. We had the director of the LAUSD Arts Department, Rory Pullins. We had all these people, Jay Tucker, who was at USC at the time. We had a roundtable discussion. We had the person from AT&T who started my program. We had all these people, but we brought in students from JFK Community College. We brought General Bray in from Washington, D.C. We brought another contractor from the Pentagon, and we had a multi-camera virtual conference And that was our proof of principle that we could move and bring all these people into one television broadcast 5 years ago, but using students to plan, produce, and execute the event. So I thought about it. I said, I can put the spreadsheet together, but shit, this is the event that will showcase all of the things we can do to put the pipeline and students working on every part of it. And it fell apart really because we didn't know what we were doing and what we had.
Okay.
But high school students, the K through 12 part of it became so important as I extracted the after action review part of it, is that they were telling the guy from the superintendent from LAUSD's Arts Education Department said, hey, when did you guys start to understand and realize that you wanted a career in this field? And they talked about it when we were 4 and 5 years, old as digital natives. And he was saying his thing was if you're starting at the high school level, you're starting way too late. Middle school at the least, you guys have to start identifying career paths or things that you have interest in. So we can get you into the magnet schools. We can get you into the schools that have the opportunity to create internships where internships really do work. And obviously we have quite a few. The mayor has one for high school students, and the 2 young ladies that were on this thing had both gotten paid internships from the summer from the 2 biggest production companies in Hollywood. Okay. And neither one of them were Black. And so that proof of principle is that we did all these things. We had all these Black executives and decision makers, but we have yet to be able to figure out how to help Black folks. So I have had more success in getting non-Black people, getting them placed, getting them exposure to Kevin Hart, to all the conferences. I can't find the Black folks, can't find the Black students. And that's why tomorrow I'm meeting with the people at Emoja, again, who, great thing that Valerie's doing to fund all the Black organizations. But I'm trying to tell you that the credibility that I have, that I can't parlay into a discussion about how can I help you. They wouldn't even let me help them. I guarantee you, they wouldn't let me help them even if I volunteered.
Because they don't know you?
I can prove that.
Okay.
Yes. And case in point, the Vic that I did at UCLA, one of the best panels ever. I mean, just, and again, I still haven't got the content from the playback. I don't know what they're doing with it, but that was one of the best panels that I've ever seen. And I invited the Emoja people from the Pierce College division to be part of it. I even put their logo on the flyer that we sent out.
Okay.
But unfortunately, they had committed with their dollars to do their own Emoja conference. And what happened is when I realized that they had their own conference, and Jay Tucker provided a platform for me to do a panel when he's never given any outside third person a chance to use his platform, he gave it to me and we nailed it. And I invited the Emoja people in, flyer, logo, the whole bit. Not one person from Emoja attended the event because they had their own thing that they had spent a lot of money. They had hired an MC and all these other activities, but they gave me a chance to submit a panel for their conference. I decided to do it just as that exercise. I submitted the same panel that we produced at UCLA. It was the best panel I ever saw and produced. And I submitted that panel. And a week before our event at UCLA, I got a rejection letter from Emoja saying, although, we had a lot of great proposals, we are sorry to regret that your panel didn't fit
whatever they were looking for.
Now, yeah, two of the panelists on there were people who could hire and fire anybody in digital media on our UCLA panel, but yet it didn't fit. And I have to challenge the community college people that I know. What are we doing to try and create an outcome that can convert all your dollars into something that's a win for these people?
Right.
Now we can culturize them to death. We can train them to death. We can expose them to death, but what is a win for a community college student? And I contend that from what I've heard from Richard Verchess and some of the other people, we need them to be able to get a living wage and some kind of certified, digital badged up thing that they can prove that they can get a certification, a digital badge for. So here I am, I'm trying to say, hey, I've got a Kevin Hart, I've got all of my network of people. We can give you access, exposure to very prescriptive things you're not gonna get in the classroom. So for the 1% of the people, I used to use the 1% rule of people who are in the community colleges who would like to work in media, entertainment, and career tech and creative tech. Because again, not everybody's going to be working as a writer, director, producer. Some are going to be engineers, right. Some are going to be janitors, some whatever. The 1% of the people and the growth industry in Southern California, if I'm offering you 1%, that's not of any value.
I think you have something. I think you have something.
Your Black student. So that's why I want Valerie and anybody else that she's capable of letting us talk to. Hell, let's do a pilot. So I'm doing the pilot right now with Santa Monica. I got 3 Black students and 1 Hispanic student. The Black, the Hispanic student, she's 36 years of age, single mother. She's already graduated from Cal State Northridge, decided to come back to Santa Monica so that she could try to sharpen her skills and get through the premier college, community college program called Promo Pathway, which is a very selective academy for people who learn how to write, direct, and produce produce reels. I've got 1 Black lady from Compton who's at Santa Monica who graduated from Cal State LA. I've got another student who, well, he's kind of dropped out. He's a gay young man, and he's dropped out, but I'm not letting him go. He's dropped out because he says it's too much. It's too much. Then I've got Shoni, who dropped out of school because he said, I couldn't put the value on getting my grades up, so therefore I lost my student aid and I had to find a job. But he's now willing to come back to the program and work maybe more as a peer-to-peer mentor and saying, hey, if you can't, you know, get to the process of getting your student financial aid and getting your aid degree, you may have to find a job. You may have to create a job. So he's the guy. So I got 4 archetypes. The gay Black guy, the woman from Compton, Hispanic from LA, and Shoni. I got a 5th person that I've just brought on from the California State University system. And this is one of the people who heard about Kevin Hart's organization 2 years ago and said, hey, is this thing still alive? Because I'll move to LA from San Francisco just to be close to that thing. And it's what he did. He just moved from San Francisco to LA, and he wants to, whatever I can do, I'll sweep the floors. But I'm a 4-year university student from San Francisco State, and I've hired my own production company. But these are the people I want to create a baseball card for. These are the faces, and you flip on the back. This is their stats, and these are their stories. So this is my first cohort to produce programming, content, whether it be media tech or ad tech. They're going to produce the kind of content that people can say, man.
But that's just through you. And it's not affiliated yet with a educational institution, which is your goal.
Absolutely. It's just through me. Okay. And the goal, since I now have enough money in the bank, and I don't say this lightly, if nobody will hire them, I'll hire them to work on my projects. I have some other projects. So the safety net for everything I'm saying to the community college people, I'll hire them. I won't just intern them to death, I'll hire them. And if they can work, because I've picked the best, most capable people who are the least of us, they can do the work.
So at what point are you comfortable saying, is it after a length of time or a number or meeting a set of milestones, which could include working on so many productions? Are you willing to say, you now have this official stamp. Go out to the world because the world will receive you. Otherwise, worst case, go to Kevin Hart Studios.
Yeah, I would say after producing this California State University Entertainment Alliance event, this panel on the 28th, I think I'd be willing to shop the 1 hour program and say that these people who have an IMBD credit on this program, I'd say that these people would be worthy of me promoting and shopping them as potential.
But that's what I want you to think about as a process, Kevin. So when you're putting together your curriculum, so to speak, that you graduate out or you're eligible now to have this piece of paper and go look for another job, or you can stay with me for however long, but you're now ready.
Yeah.
After you've met these milestones.
Right. And more importantly than them writing, directing, editing the content, they're going to be graded by me on, and we've already gone through some mess because even for the UCLA event, which was very ragged, we didn't get the links for the event. And these people were promised that they would get free registration. And I had one of the things I've never had was their cell phone numbers. But because of COVID, we're working virtually. I got everybody's email and cell phone numbers. And what I had everybody go through is a process of filling out an application. So I had everything I could know about these people. That lady Veretta who put the application together, and by the way, she's the one that got me the interviews with LA Times. I have 2 interviews for LA Times under her help, and she's the one that helped me put together the proof of concept and the application I mailed out to all these potential candidates. Do you know only 3 of the 14 people I sent that filled out the application filled it out correctly? And those are the 3 people I'm working with.
Okay.
So the other 11 people that have filled out the application incorrectly, I hadn't even gotten back to them. And this was almost 30 days have gone by. So I said the first proof of principle for me is if they can't fill that application for me or don't have the value to take the time, I'm not going to put them on my team. So these are the people who did it. And literally what's happening now, these people have made a lot of mistakes in terms of their etiquette on the phone, text messaging, and these are the things we get back and we have to work on. We had a Zoom conference with Kevin Hart's people, and one of the young ladies, the 36-year-old Hispanic lady, she challenged me. She said, I don't understand what you just said. And Kevin Hart's person was just about getting off the phone, and it was kind of weird because I'm like, wait a minute, this is something that you should have said to me off phone, offline, because it made it seem like we were just kind of making the stuff up as we go. And because you didn't understand, you're going to ask Kevin Hart's person, who may be a potential hire, to explain this to you again in front of everybody else on a Zoom call. And it so infuriated me that I told one of the other people, I'm making this Black girl, Marquita, the 29-year-old, I said, I want to groom you as my assistant because I need you to help me with some of these other 4 people understand what not to do if you don't understand, if you don't have anything productive to say. Just take it offline and we'll think and think first before we talk, okay? So it amazed me. She was the oldest person on the call that kind of threw me under the bus because she didn't understand what was going on. And I'm sure that everybody else asked some questions, but she was the only one to say, I don't understand. So I'm going to hold up everything until I understand. And then I told Marquita, and this is how Marquita and I figured it out, I know you got to go, is that when she couldn't get the links to the UCLA event, I put everybody in a group text, all 12 people who filled out the application. I had them all on a group text to try to give them updates. She said, hey, this sounds like a scam. This is some more evidence of us being taken advantage of. We went in, and we can't even get a link. And I had to call her, not text or email. I called her. I said, hey, you can't do that. You can't crap on what I'm doing because you don't have what you need and tell everybody else on the call that it's a scam. And that's how, and I told the guy, Ted Milner, who has the job creation program, the executive temps. He said, yeah, you know, it's interesting. He said, but a lot of these people don't have these social skills because they've never had to be challenged in that type of thing to understand that that's unprofessional. And so they can write and direct and edit, but who cares if you can run or jump out of the building? If you can't run plays or you don't know how to talk to your coach, you'll never get on the court. So she and I had that moment. Since then, she's been the best, most attentive person, almost still apologizing for the fact that she made that really big mistake. So these are the things that I like working with a smaller group. And these people will graduate after April 28th to some level beyond certification so that I can showcase on the baseball card, these are the faces and the people that I will go to war with. Even if it's just Marquita, these are the people who have gone through the program. And they will get a chance to speak to the Jay Tuckers, the Keisha Washingtons about their unique, very narrow understanding of what they need as an economic opportunity. But that's the program. So if the LA Times interviewed me or anybody else understands that I have gone through this pandemic to come down to 4 or 5 people that I'm trying to get placed so they can get their living wage or their fair market value, this is what the program could scale to. But these are the complexities, these are the real personalities, and all of them fit really within this model of the least of us who have already graduated, but they're coming back to me as their last chance to try to get their fair market value in digital media. They may go somewhere else, but in digital media, I want to be the last chance university, so to speak. And unfortunately, that's the name that I wanted for the TV scripted reality program of these people. But I've changed the name to 35 Miles to Eden, which is the distance between Compton and what we call the epicenter of LA creative, which is kind of Hollywood. Okay. So these people are 35 miles away or 3,500 miles away in an HBCU, they're never going to get there without somebody providing some intervention and some grace. And that's what it is that I want to be able to offer up, is that I'm going to provide this without, thinking as a nonprofit. I'm volunteering my network of people to help these people bridge the gap, the 35 miles to Hollywood. That's it. So it's a reality TV program. I've already written the treatment for it. I sent you a little bit of the business plan, but that's kind of where I'm going with this thing. So the April 28th graduation really will be me curating and taking all of the experiences. So that's why everything we do is Zoom. So I can edit all of these conversations. I've had 5 conversations with this group. And our next one is we've committed Wednesday at 3:30 to have our time. So we've had 2 of them this far. It'll be a third. So every one of them will give me a chance to keep editing so that we can figure out how to have a trailer, a sizzle of discussions about how we got here to create the April 28th event. But the California State Universities, I can't get any bigger opportunity to showcase these students' capabilities. And the community, they won't give it to me until I don't need it. I guarantee you. None of them will give me this opportunity to help with a summit or whatever. And that's a shame. They won't hire their students to be able to help to create an event, a virtual event. And that's what Carolyn Hull did. Carolyn Hull solicited me to say, hey, let me get a group of your students, Shoni and whatever, and we'll give you X amount of dollars. You guys come and shoot and edit our events to put into our website. And she started me with thinking, hey, this is a chance for them to start really walking their talk and hiring people who are looking for economic opportunities and learning at the same time, because LADC is going to be the client. And you know what Carolyn said? She said, and I know who the woman is now, it wasn't Jessica, who said, well, why would we hire these kids when we can hire somebody internally who's already working on our staff? Yeah. Why would we do that? Because we have to make money and we have to save money. Forget about, the grant that we manage and all this stuff we're trying to create student outcomes. that makes no sense for us to hire these kids when we can hire somebody inside internally. And Carolyn said, I'll try to change your mind. 2 weeks later, she left. So that's what we've been dealing with. And as a consequence, these students that I've been dealing with for 5, 6 years have lost faith in me, because when I tell them something as good as gold, that the community colleges will hire you, they'll give me a grant so we can give you guys more work. They've all fell through. Not so Richard Verchess, Jessica Koo, Carolyn Hull, doesn't matter who it is. Frank Dawson, who was the dean at SMC, all of them have fallen through because I can't pull the trigger on hiring community college students through me or even directly because they can't. I don't know why. So if you can challenge, if Vermont Economic Development Corporation says, yes, we want students to create micro businesses or go through micro, business plans or budgets or whatever, give them a chance to find clients that really do believe that they can actually get a chance to do the work. And so I think you'll have a better outcome if people, yeah, so that's where I am. I know you got to go. So next step is that when I get the statement of work, from California State University, okay, I'm going to actually send them this recording because I want them to know that this is my pilot, and the Kevin Hart, brand will be on stage for us to figure out how we develop a better understanding of how to work with them on making sure that these clients, like California State University, can potentially have Kevin Hart be our next client. But I'm not going to ask them for that until we can show them a proof that we have nailed it for a real educational institution client. So that's our credibility is on the line. It's on the line. Okay, so as soon as I get the statement of work from California State University, and I want to show you what it is we're doing, then maybe you can figure out how do we shop that to see if there's people who can start to understand that they could become clients, whether they be funders or clients, doesn't matter. They're both the same. Okay. That makes sense?
I look forward to seeing it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Keisha. I know we're way over time, so I appreciate you. Okay.
No worries. Bye-bye. Thank you. And I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.